Node info session. There we go. We also have that. Thank you. Thank you, Renee. All right. My name is Luis Alejandro Tapia. As I said before, I am the network doula for Illuminate. I am Black, I am fat, I am bearded, I am 6'3", and I'm a daddy of a 11-month-old triple Scorpio. Her name is Maya Julia, who went to the library for the first time yesterday. And she loved like walking through stuff, pulling books out, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm also inspired by the work that people do to transform themselves in order to transform the world. And if you're familiar with Grace Lee Boggs, then you know that comes directly from her. Someone else that I'm really inspired by today is Octavia Butler. And what's resonating in my mind about her is the quote. I'm gonna kind of shorten it, right? The quote says, "Everything you touch, you change. Everything you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change." Right. And so from what I understand, that's the type of work that y'all are up to change, into transformation, and into supporting that type of work. And so what we'll be doing today is really figuring out how we can support you in that work and whether we're the place where that can happen at, right? And so for today, we'll be answering the questions, kind of learning more about what you're curious about. In regards to the funder node, we have a specific question where you'll be able to, a specific section where you'll be able to answer as many of those questions, and hopefully we'll be able to like also answer some of those questions too with you. The intention is also for us to get into it right away, right? And so, yes, we will be sharing a lot, and also we'll be working together. And this is really for us to model the participatory emergent approach that we intend to take during our sessions, right? And you get a sense of that, of whether that feels right for you too. And this is also an opportunity for us to gather, to harvest your interests, your hopes, your curiosities as funders of systems change in order to inform the design of these sessions as well. Welcome folks that just arrived. And so before we continue doing that, you've already seen some of the folks that are part of Illuminate. You might already even know some of them, right? I want to create an opportunity for you to learn about someone else specifically, and then we'll also do some intros here in the space, right? And so I'm going to introduce Habiba, but the way I'm going to introduce Habiba is by having her answer a prompt. And Habiba, I have a different question than the one you thought you might were going to answer, but it's very close. I heard that you had like some jitters around it, and I think there's no better way to get rid of that than by like being a little bit risky in a trustful way, right? So Habiba, please, I want you to share who you are by telling us, right? If you know me, you know ... right? And so if you know Habiba, you know ... I also want to know what's inspiring your work these days. Yeah, let's I'll leave it there for now.
Yes. Okay, so I have to work this out now. So I'm very excited to be here. And if you know Habiba, you know that I am an introvert. I really like bananas with peanut butter. And I really like sleeping, like sleep. So my favorite activity in the world. And what's really inspiring me is a lot of young people who I can see in the work because they're just not taking shit. It's just like they're just coming out and they're like, we want a different kind of relationships with each other, a different kind of caring with each other, and they're trying to create it. So I'm very, very excited by that.
And I saved this last question. How did you arrive here? and maybe an abbreviated version of that, given the work you do, given your role at Illuminate. How'd you arrive here?
So I would say that, so I work at Lankely Chase, and we have been trying yeah, to take a systems lens through a range of issues. And because we saw that a lot of our work was very siloed, and we were trying to, but the reality is we're working in kind of a complex, multi-layered world that has history, that has politics, and has all of that. And so we were trying to say, okay, if we're going to try and change things, how do we take more of a systemic lens and systemic tools and thinking and all of that? And while we have moved away from that, using that language, what we have kept is very much the idea that things are interconnected and they're interrelated. And also that recognizing that we are in some crises. You know, we face ecological collapse. We face the welfare model that we certainly have in Europe, that you may also have in the US and Canada, is retreating in terms of the welfare state. And so what does that mean? So there's loads of changes, or there's loads of crises. And so how do we do this? And we need each other. We need each other because no one person can do it alone. And so for me, Illuminate as a place that's bringing together people, as a network, as a platform to connect, is just an opportunity to do that. And specifically for foundations is to really think about the times we're in and what it really means to be in times where it might be, you know, world ending in some ways. And so what do we need to do? What's the work of these times? And so I'm just desperate to learn from everybody and to be with you all and to kind of connect with you. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Habiba. I have a feeling that what you shared might be something that other folks are resonating with, and might even be having some experience in. Right. Again, welcome to folks that just logged in. I'm looking at where folks are coming from, given that you've shared a few geographical contexts, Habiba, out in the UK, here in the US. We have folks here out of Brooklyn, out of Ohlone territory, in DC. There's the Mexico, Vanessa, I see you. And so now it's a good time. I feel like it's a good time for us to continue grounding with each other. And so what's going to happen now is we're going to go into some breakout rooms. Habiba answered or started answering some of the questions that you'll also get to answer as well. I'm going to throw the questions in the chat. And while that's happening, I believe Rachel might be setting us up for some breakout room work, right? And so what you should know is that I am an Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, and really what that means, if you're not into that kind of stuff, is that I really love complexity. I also really love choice, right? And so I was given like 2 questions to ask y'all. I'm like, nah, I want to ask them like 8 questions, right? And that might be a lot. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw all the questions I have for you inside of this chat. And I'd love for you to choose 2 that you'll answer, right? And so the questions in the chat are, what are you curious about? What are you longing to grow, shift, change? What brings you here today? Why are you interested in joining the Illuminate Funder Node? What are your burning questions about funding systems change? What is inspiring your work these days? What impact are you looking to create? What ways would you like to shift, grow through this work, right? And what questions have you brought for us? And so any of those, I'm sure you'll even come up with some new ones too. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into some breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and harvest some of that and continue grounding in this funder node work. Does that sound okay for folks? Cool. Cool. I see some thumbs up. I see some nods. Great. Welcome, Jimmy. I see you. Okay. Rachel, you ready to go? All right. I'll let folks know when we're halfway there. It's so beautiful where y'all are at. Anastasia, Kelsey.
I'm at the office.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like a real one. Like there's like a real one behind you.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that development.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. Right. Ryan, welcome. What's up, y'all? All right, cool. Cool. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm thinking, Renee, that we can also share that Jamboard link with folks if they want to start noting some things up. We're gonna do a quick harvest. So we're gonna be here, I would say about 5, 6, 7 minutes. Just hearing what came up in your pairings and your triading. I think there was like 4 at a time, right? Yeah. So Renee's gonna drop that link in the chat. And for folks that may not be familiar with the Jamboard, I'll share my screen and just show you real basic functions of this tool. So there's hopes, there's curiosities. To the left, there are some toggles for a pen, for an eraser. What you want to do is just go to the sticky note. So go into the sticky note, right? I'm curious, like, who is Illuminate and why? If you were curious about this, I got you. I'm gonna put it there. That's one of the first things that I'm curious about here, and I'll put it there, right? So please be free to also put some things there as you're ruminating, as you're hearing what other folks are sharing, right? And we'll also be harvesting whatever comes out live and may not be in the sticky notes. But I'd love to invite folks. What? Question mark, period. You can unmute yourself. What are you curious about? What's brought you here? And how are you looking to grow, shift through this work? Ryan, I see you using the Google buttons. You're up.
Yeah. Well, to answer the question, sort of what brought you here, I think we've kind of been on the path for this for a while. We the McConnell Foundation in Canada, where I'm from, has funded this and sort of precursor work of Illuminate and Susie in different forms for a few years. So that's kind of how I got here. And it's nice to see some old friends on the call. Hi, Kelsey. How you doing? Yeah, I think I mean I'm all questions and no answers. That's where I am with everything. And one of the questions that's top of mind for me right now is people. How do we do systems change work effectively with all of the challenges that we're seeing related to people these days, to well-being, to burnout, to churn, to everything that's happening both in our organizations and the organizations we support. So that's my question.
Ryan, can I ask you another one?
Yeah.
You as a person,
mm-hmm.
how can you imagine this work supporting you as one of those people?
I mean, I think there are parts of this that are so enriching as an individual, right? Like you get to see wonderful things being done and in some way, play a small role in supporting that, and that's good for the soul, right? That's really important, and it's inspiring, and then to be able to play the role of maybe bridging knowledge that started in one place and to take it to others is it feels like you're making good use of yourself in the system. I think that's a nourishing thing.
Russ, I see you unmuted.
Oh, I think I just happened to be unmuted.
Oh.
I'm in a quiet place.
Yeah. I will name. Those are not easy questions. And this is the space where we can also process out loud, maybe hear ourselves talk and be like, huh, is that really what I think about that? What's resonating for other folks? What impact are you looking to create through this work?
So I'll share one piece that's been resonating for me recently, which is as we attempt to evolve as an organization, seeing ourselves as a complex adaptive system and really using systems concepts and being complexity aware in terms of how we transform ourselves as an institution in service of mission, so that we can learn internally like new ways of being in the world that can translate into our work and our relationships with community. And for me, systems concepts are and complexity concepts are very present in how we think about doing that in effective ways. So that's, for me, what's felt like nourishing and inspiring and super confusing at the same time.
Kelsey, it seems like, I don't know if you saw this, but there were a lot of heads nodding when you named the confusion.
I'll go.
Hey, Maura, yeah.
Hey, how are you? So my name is Maura Donlin. I'm with the Chandler Foundation. And I've been enjoying how the JAM board is evolving. And it's interesting. I'm seeing lots of people putting in about measurement, which is totally appropriate and legitimate and something that we're always paying attention to. But the thing that I actually put down, just to be not provocative, but just to say that I wrote, how can we liberate philanthropists and foundations to take risk and embrace systems change and to be comfortable with emergence and ambiguity and lack of easy metrics? So in other words, we're finding that there are no easy metrics in this situation. And maybe even following on what Ryan's saying, kind of being compassionate to ourselves in this situation. It's okay if there aren't easy metrics. It's okay to wrestle with this, and because it's the only way that we can change our minds and learn to think differently. So I just wanted to bring that to the fore. And some people may disagree with me.
Thanks for sharing that. Honestly, the metrics question is one. I'm Anastasia Standrick. I'm with the JPB Foundation, and I support the environmental justice portfolio. And one of the things that the program officer that I support and closely work with, and I often struggle, is in the mainstream climate space. Folks are only interested in metrics, and it's easy to do metrics because you could do carbon accounting and methane accounting, but so the impact on real people and that the planet, we're not saving the planet, we're like saving living human beings on the planet, also can get lost in that language. And I think and that's kind of where the disconnect happens, I think, in what is currently getting funded in the climate space. So why we are, and I will share what I learned in this session today with my colleague, why we're really interested in this space is like learning how do you like kind of encourage people to look at a really big issue from a systemic lens, and kind of can't force an analysis onto people, but encourage them to look at the climate crisis from a much more root cause analysis versus outputs of X carbon, et cetera, because then inherently it will be, if you're rooted in the root causes of climate change, the solutions are very different and are very community oriented.
And so I'll just add is that from our point of view, and I'm sure a lot of people agree, that philanthropy is society's risk capital. So if we're not going to take a risk, who else would take a risk? So we're, the hope is that we can encourage philanthropists to be more risky, specifically around these questions, and to be okay with people use complexity, which is true, but I think even complexity can be scary with people. It's more kind of ambiguity and uncertainty.
Thank you. All right, I'm excited for our sessions, and I'm excited for all y'all to be part of that and creating the context and the content in those sessions. And to talk a little bit more about those sessions, I'm going to pass it on to Tatiana, but I do want to note that we will continue to leave the Jamboard open. So as we engage in these conversations, please continue to also put your notes, your hopes, your curiosities as they continue to develop. Before I pass on to Tatiana, I want to see if there's anyone else that'd like to take this moment here to share what's resonating, what's come up for them, even since the breakout room chat.
Luis, yeah, I'm just struck by the humility. I think I added to the Jamboard something about funders moving into unknowing. And it really strikes me, we've been thinking about and working with many funders, just how smart people in philanthropy are. One foundation we worked with, they said literally 90% of their staff graduated at the top of their class in university. And it's kind of like, okay, you take people who really care, who really want to help, who are really smart, who are good problem solvers, and you put them in charge of the money. What do you think is going to happen, right? And I just think the spirit of humility is so key, and being comfortable, like someone was saying, with just not knowing, and the idea that all of us are smarter than any of us, and we need one another to figure out these complex challenges. Hopefully that humility is contagious.
It is. Tatiana, I welcome you up. I'm going to share a slide for you. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Maura. Thank you, Anastasia, other folks that shared. Please also use the chat if speaking out loud is not the thing you're up to this morning, or usually. I just want to hear you, know you. So please be free to do that. Tatiana, all yours.
Okay, thanks so much, Lou. So what we'd like to do now is just ground us a little bit in kind of where we're coming from as we launch this new node as part of the Illuminate network. So my name is Tatiana. I'm based in Montreal, which is the traditional lands of the Kanakahage people. And I work with System Sanctuary with Rachel. So Rachel and I are going to kind of set up this next little piece here. And we are part of the Illuminate community, and we have been for a couple of years. And just to share a little bit about what is Illuminate. So we are a network, a community of systems practitioners, field builders who care a lot about this work and who have been creating a network that is really designed for connecting and learning about systems practice with a keen interest in what are we grappling with, what are the edges, and how can we connect this learning across contexts and regions so that we can support the advancement, support the field and the practice towards just, equitable, and regenerative futures. So Illuminate was founded about 5 years ago with a number of partners and collaborators, and has been working and evolving over the last couple of years. And some of the what we're up to these days, so the funder node that is being launched has a history. You might have heard Susie, and some of you connected to Susie. This is a community that had been working for about 3 years together to do learning around systems practice for funders with funders. And this is the kind of next iteration of Susie, is this funder node. And it's really grounded in this spirit, I think, that is really special about Illuminate. And we're part of a larger community. So you can see just here visually, there are other nodes that have been activated and living and learning. The bridging node, which has been inquiring into leading systems change from non-dominant kind of centers. We also have launched a luminary cohort, which is quite active and alive right now, where we have seed funded inquiries and nodes across the globe. We've also had learning communities for practitioners based in North America, and a number of other working groups and nodes that have been kind of in learning mode and research mode. So you can learn more about Illuminate, but just to give you a sense of where we're coming from and what we've been up to, this is Illuminate. And I'm going to pass it to Rachel, who is just going to share a little bit about some of the groundwork that was done to get to here for this node launching, for the funder node launching. And I think we'll need the deck still, if that's okay. And Rachel, I'm handing it to you.
Yeah, sure. So Tatiana and I work together, and we've been helping to do the startup work of building Illuminate with Lou and others, many others. So we had a hunch that that we needed to bring the kind of spirit of Illuminate, which is around learning and support and connection to people who are in the kind of philanthropic world, because there's a growing number of funders and grant makers who are interested in systems change. There's also a cluster of pioneers who've been experimenting with this for probably the last 10 years or so, and there's some case studies to share, but the practice is nascent and there are lots of questions, as I think has come up today. So we interviewed 18 funders around Illuminate to find out where they're at with all of this, basically. And some of the things that we found, I just wanted to pull out a few of the quotes. They really align with what we've been talking about today on the next slide, if that's good. So, things like, I'm moving intuitively in an organization that doesn't intuit much and doesn't trust intuition. It's a lot of work. And in many of these foundations, the criteria is still, does it make the trustees feel good? Can we tell a quick story about impact to beneficiaries? It's very much a business mentality, even though it isn't a business. And then on the next slide, this conversation that you've touched on today about when you change your institution to make it agile and iterative with a systems approach, it can lead to team burnout. And so really, what we found was there was kind of three groups of funders, and that's on the next slide. There were beginners who were kind of saying, what is systems change? How do I apply it to my existing grantees? And how does this work? There were people who we described as doers. So they were leading an initiative internally that was trying to bring about systemic change. And they were very much like, don't patronize me. I already have the tools and frameworks. I'm doing it. I'm stuck out. And they really wanted to meet and talk to people who were doing something similar to them. And then there was the questioners, the conversation around, should philanthropy even exist? And having a kind of conversation about shifting philanthropy from a systems perspective. But overall, what came up was this idea that, like, funders, as people who work in foundations, you're invited to lots of things. That's something we found out through our research. And so if this is going to be good and you're going to turn up, it has to be different. And I think that's where we see the kind of niche of the culture that we have in Illuminate. Showing up fully human is a really important part of the way that we're going to be developing this funders node. And so an opportunity to peer learn, and a culture that's warm and honest with depth and feels supportive. And yeah, building capacity to work systemically together. That is a speed summary of our research, and I'm going to hand back to Lou.
Thank you so much. It does feel warm for many reasons. It's raining in New York and I'm sitting right next to my heater, but I also feel the warmth in this space too. Here for some more warmth. Renee, tell us about all the things. Can I share your slide?
Yes, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
awesome, cool.
Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Fazzari. I have worked in philanthropy for most of my career, and I'm your funder node lead. So I'm happy to be joining this wonderful group to help direct what I think is going to be a really fun series. And now here at 45 minutes in, I'm going to give you the actual details of what this is going to be. But I'm not going to talk much about it because you can find a lot on our website. So I'm just going to put this into the chat. And I just want to mostly make room for your questions. I will start by just saying that we are already modeling the way that we plan to run the funder node, which is highly peer learning focused, highly emergent. So it's going to be based on anybody who joins. It will be based on what you want to hear, what you want to do, what you want to learn, and how you want to be in community with other funders. My experience of being in a grant making role for about 15 years is that there's a lot of spaces that want to fill your brain with really interesting facts, figures, and pitches and dog and pony shows and reasons to fund the thing. But there's not a lot that focuses on the how of grant making and why you might do something different than the way that the field functions overall. To get real feedback from people who have been in the trenches with their grantees for a while is difficult. So peer learning is a really rare opportunity in our field, in our space. And that's kind of how we're thinking about this. It's going to be relationship based over experts. It'll be a 6-part series and we're thinking of them in kind of pairs. So there'll be a 90-minute webinar and then a few weeks later, a 60-minute dialogue. In each webinar, there'll be some kind of provocateur, speaker, conversation, fireside chat type of situation. But then you'll be left with a question to think about in your own funding institution. How is that question playing out? Why is it hard to do that thing? Or why is it easy? Or how was it easy? And coming back and being in conversation with folks. So it's really a learning space. There'll be 3 of these pairings. So the November, December, and then 2 in February, and then 2 in May, and we'll close. And then we'll see what the group wants to do next, if the group wants to continue working. There's also going to be an opportunity for buddies. If folks sign up to be in a buddy pair, we'll give you some exercises to think about in conversation in between these dialogue pairings. Can you do the next slide, Lou? So who should join? Folks who are already providing financial support to systems change. And that can be in a place, nationally or globally. It can be focused in a place-based system. So you're trying to fund a set of organizations in a place to do something systemic. Or it can be that you fund the systems change field broadly. There's not too many that fund that way, but there are some. You want to kind of get in it with your peers. You know, you want to improve your practice as a grant maker. You want to share and learn, and that you can attend most of the sessions. We had some questions about this. Can an institution kind of sub people back and forth? Because it's relationship based, we really want to make it based on the individual. If you can't make every single one, it's okay. But we do hope that folks will be able to be in an ongoing conversation. And did I say this already? I don't think I did. That the team is that will be in front of the room during this process is Lou and Habiba and myself, with the wonderful Marisela supporting, who's not here today, supporting the logistics of all of this. I love the spotlights. These are your 3. And we really are creating, you know, an intimate space where folks can get kind of bring their challenges and really dig in. So I think I will stop there and see if I'll hand it back to you, Lou.
Thank you. And I'll do something I do best is hand it back to everyone else here in this space. So this session, we have about 9 more minutes in this session, right? Which, if folks are familiar with Adrienne Marie Brown's emergent strategy, one of her principles is that there's always enough time for the right work, right? And so I'm curious to hear from you, what feels like the work here? What are you hoping the work is, becomes, emerges to? I know you have questions, and I'd love to hear them here out loud. And I also know I'm very clear that you also have answers. And so please unmute yourself, try it out, throw it up. You have other folks here that might be able to catch some of the things that you throw up. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring back the questions that we asked from the beginning, so folks have it again in the chat, right? Yeah, what are you longing to shift, change? Really, what are the questions that are guiding your work currently? I'd love to hear from you, especially if we didn't get to hear from you in the first initial rounds.
While people are thinking about whether or not to jump in, I just want to share one other thing, which is that we recognize that that this particular funder node, this particular offering is not the only offering out there, and it is kind of a let's get into it together kind of thing. So there's lots of different ways to learn about systems change. If you feel like you're earlier in the journey, I'm going to put a link into an open Google Doc, where we would love, if you know of other things that are available for funders, please add them into the document. And you're also welcome to just peruse other things that folks in our network, in the Illuminate network, are doing with funders. We want to kind of gather these, and feel free to share the document around or take a look. So I'll put that into the chat now, and hopefully someone's got an answer to Lou's prompt.
And I'm going to side with Maura on this one about taking risk. I think everyone here has a response to that. And I invite you to take a risk, right? I don't expect you to be perfect. I do expect you to be present. And so there's something that has brought you here. There's something that you're curious about. And that something is not separate from you and who you are, and what your passions are, and what drives you. And so the question, I'm going to highlight the question again. What are you looking to shift and grow in yourself that will also support your work?
Well, I'll jump in.
Fabienne, I saw you at Clubhouse yesterday.
I know my phone buttons weren't working. I didn't jump in then because I wasn't sure how those things were going to work. All these platforms have different ways of speaking up. This was not something I came in with. This was more something that Serena shared during our breakout, which I found interesting, and which is it speaks a little to the work I do at Community Knowledge Exchange, which is how our storytelling, knowledge sharing, what is the narrative around how funders, specifically philanthropy, is shifting and is changing and experiencing the push for this change, the need for this change. So yeah, I kind of, not my question, but a question that it will stay with me when I leave here, because it's something that it kind of snapped into something that I've been thinking about. Like, yeah.
I feel you. It wasn't yours, but now it is.
Yes.
I know I see Jimmy, Vanessa, Freya, any other folks? It's them. Or any other names I have not mentioned yet?
Luis and everyone, I am in transit. It didn't work very well for me the time for the meeting, but I'm very interested on this group. And there's something that I wonder, because of the work I mainly do here in Mexico and in Latin America, which is the role of the foundations, the new role of the foundations. We are facing a lot of uncertainty and bigger risks, and it's very every time it's more complex to even achieve very tactical goals with traditional means. And then when I observe the role of the government and some companies, I kind of suspect that foundations have a great role in towards system change. So I'm wondering, and I have a lot of curiosity about what is possible, what are the paradigms and structures currently available for foundations to have a new role in system change in current times that are like very risky, very uncertain, and especially in Latin America.
Yes, Vanessa, gracias. Oh my goodness. Got it. That's another question that is now ours. Well, I feel very nourished. How are folks? How are folks feeling? Drop it in the chat. Show it. Show it in your face. Let's close. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm hoping that our intention has impacted you in positive ways, and that you're getting a sense of whether, like, okay, this is the vibe, and I'm here for it, right? As we said previously, it'll be us three really leading the sessions: Renee, Habiba, and myself, and we'll be able to work some things out together. This will be a practice space, and it will take practice, right? So we invite you, every single one of you, and your friends too. And Renee, I want everyone to be there. I'm gonna be sad. I will miss you. I will miss you if you miss a session. And also, you're a grown-ass person living in this world. We understand. Are there any other closing words? I'm good. I'm done. I'm done here. I'm nourished. Any other things folks want to say?
Just to say out loud, I put it in the chat, the registration form. Registration will stay open until November 1st. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and take a look at the Funder Node webpage. All the information is there. Pass it along to folks in your institution and others. We hope to see you soon.
All right, y'all. See ya.